This episode was recorded prior to the release of Equinox. However, we encourage you to stick around for the fun and shenanigans. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Gate is Green podcast. This is Eurzadahn coming to you live from the Amamake system. I am co-hosting today's episode with the lovely Lizardbreath.
Hello and 07 everyone.
In today's episode, the Squall, the Deluge, the Torrent, and the new Avalanche combat freighter. Stick around and join us in our live reaction. Before we do that, so what's new, Liz? How's everything going?
No, I don't know.
Well, that doesn't sound exciting.
We're trying to figure out the new systems. Okay, shipping systems. It is.
Are you sure you didn't drink before the episode?
No. Here's for the blooper reel.
I mean,
this is starting out great today.
Concord doesn't have any rules against flying while intoxicated.
Oh, God, Jesus. Literally just sitting here trying to figure out the new ships and the new systems that are coming. June 11th.
June 11th already. Gosh, right around the corner.
Yeah.
And we have currently going right now, what is it? The Capsuleer days for this year, right?
Correct. I was going to ask you, how are you doing? How you doing?
Okay, still trying to get used to the pace of things in the game. Slowly logging in, trying to collect my event rewards. Gotta get those skill points. And I am ashamed to say I have not tried any of these events. So I've been a bad Eve player. I haven't tried any of this stuff.
I wouldn't call us bad Eve players. I would call us returning ones trying to figure out what we want to do, how we want to do it. And I really thought at this point I was going to come in and do Capsuleer days and be excited about it. And it's like at this point I'm just kind of floating, kind of just relaxing. Is that a bad thing or is that a good thing?
I mean, so what have you been doing in Eve then? If you haven't been taking advantage of the Capsuleer stuff, what have you been up to?
Literally filling my queues with stuff to run, the building blueprints, things like that, and running anoms, which is my favorite thing to do.
Nice. What kind of things are you building or researching?
Just blueprints. Blueprints. I want to get them all trained up so I can make copies for people who need them. That's still the key.
Oh, so you're doing like ME and TE research stuff.
Yeah, on the originals, and then when people need the copies, I just bust out a bunch of copies. My God.
I haven't touched my blueprints in a while, and I feel kind of bad. Although every time I log in, I have the little chime reminder going off that, hey, you have a whole bunch of expired contracts, so I should probably tend to those. But
well, I'm gonna have to make a trip to the local market soon. Get rid of a whole bunch of stuff.
I think, well, with the expansion coming out, I think we're going to see a big rush to market for people dumping off supplies so they can hopefully afford a new hauler or two, and people on the mad rush to the Upwell affiliated stations so they can get their blueprints. I myself I'll probably end up picking up a few myself. Hopefully I won't get popped along the way, but and just find a good place to pump out some copies and make some ships.
Do you mean, does that entail a 4 a.m. run for us?
No.
I was just checking if you wanted to be the first one there, or those days in the past for you.
Well, if I'm understanding correctly, I mean, I could be wrong. I think they were saying some of the Upwell affiliate... Bleh. Maybe I've been drinking. Concord, take me away. if I'm understanding correctly, some of the Upwell affiliated stations, I could be wrong, so someone, let me know in the comments. I believe some of them can be found in high sec. I mean, it would be less fun getting blueprints that way, but maybe I am wrong. Maybe maybe they all exist in null somewhere.
I literally have not even gone that rabbit hole yet. I mean, there are trails, rabbit trails and squirrel trails I need to follow, but I have not even gone that far, and it's like, we've got, 2 weeks? 2 weeks to figure that out? I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, so that's a good segue to the topic of today's episode. We are actually going to do a couple of live reactions to some of the videos that have been posted by CCP discussing how the Equinox expansion is rejuvenating nullsec. That's the phrase that they're using, rejuvenating nullsec. And then after that, we will... Oh no, I'm sorry. That will be the second video that we'll be looking at. The first video we'll be looking at and reacting to...
the ships.
Yeah, will be the new ships, which I'm sure is getting a lot of space truckers and industrialists. Oh, it's a day of fumbling over words, I tell you.
Words are hard.
I'm sure there's a lot of space truckers and industrialists chomping at the bit at getting their hands on some of these ships. So yeah, we'll be looking at and reacting to the ship video first, and then after that we'll be looking at the nullsec rejuvenation video. Both of these related to the new Equinox expansion launching on June 11th. We will be providing the links to these videos down in the description. So let's get right in.
We've got a controversy off the bat. Is it Equinox or Equinox? You tell us. There's the vote. Because I've heard it 2 different ways now.
I think it depends on what side of the pond you're on. I think most of us on this side, the American side of the pond, would probably say Equinox. But I wouldn't be surprised if a fair amount of European...
Our Icelandic host right here are Equinox.
Equinox. Okay. I'll try to remember Equinox as I say it, but don't hold it against me.
Yeah, because when they said it the first time I heard it, it was like, but it's Equinox. How is that Equinox? Equinox? Equinox.
Like potato. It's just gonna be a never-ending controversy.
You mean like gnosis and gnosis and genosis?
And what's the other one that people mess up all the time? Oh, Gila and Gila.
Yeah, and it's like I'm a Gila just to be controversial. So. Or
I mean, I understand they're referencing the Gila monster. I'm a Gila person. And then when it comes to the battle cruiser, I am definitely a Gnosis, silent G kind of guy.
Yeah, the whole, like when we had youngers who used to fly the Gila Gilas all the time, I literally would just call them Gila Gila to make everybody happy. So I may have to just go back to that.
So yeah, is this a controversy a lot of you guys are facing your groups these days, or is there a hard line you guys have on it? That's something else. Drop in the comments, and we will let the debates begin.
Well, I think that's eventually when we get there for like over on the tab section in YouTube. Maybe have to do a couple of polls over there to get everybody's opinion on the different names and how they're pronounced. Future endeavors.
I know, now this has me thinking what other ship names are out there that are throwing people, and nothing's coming to mind at the moment. I'm sure there's a lot of names out there that but it's not coming to me. In either case, we will dive into reacting to our first video. So the way we're going to do it, to give everyone a brief rundown, is we are jumping to the timestamps that we believe are kind of the most important. These were selected by Liz, so don't blame me, okay? These were Liz choices. But these timestamps are giving the content that we feel, worthy of a reaction and some debate. And so what we'll do is we will jump to the timestamp and we'll play the clip. And then afterwards is we'll kind of have our response and our back and forth. And once that's done, we'll move on to the next clip. That way it gives you guys a little bit of context, and who knows, maybe you guys will hear things that we missed and we can engage about it in the comments down below. And that way it gives you guys context for everything, but we don't have to go through the entire video. It's just kind of quicker that way. So let's go ahead and we'll get started.
Okay, here we go.
The Squall. I see we're still on there. Can we get moved over? There we go. This is the Squall. Can you talk to us about the ship? First of all, what is it for?
Yeah, so the Squall is the sort of entry-level hauler that we have for this set. So it'll have an infrastructure bay, which all of them will have. And in that infrastructure bay, you can put in the new reagents, which are required for some sort of upgrades for the expansion. You can also put planetary interaction materials in there. You can put fuel blocks in there, and every Upwell structure, as well as SOV structures, SOV upgrades, etc. Basically anything for upgrading space in NoSec, as well as just, I want to put up an Athanor in LowSec, then you can put everything in there that you need to be able to set up that Athanor.
This is the first one out of, this is kind of the entry-level one, right? So if we stack this up against other ships in kind of its category, would you say that these are on the same level as like kind of the Badger and the Nereus, and in that kind of, they're like the tier 1 hull, right?
Yeah, so these are a little more powerful. I'd say it's probably best to think of it kind of like a Navy hauler.
Okay.
It is a lot more expensive than the basic Tech 1 Industrials. So the basic Tech 1 Industrials right now, they around 2 to 3 million ISK to build on TQ. This will be around 20 million ISK at our current estimations. The materials that you need to build it are the same as a Badger, same as a Moa, for example, with some added like PI materials required on top. So there'll be around 20 to 25 million roughly.
So people can expect them to roughly cost as much as a T1 cruiser-ish.
Yes. So T1 cruisers have a bit more slots than them and more weapons and stuff. So when you fully fit a Tech 2 a cruiser with Tech 2 modules and such, like a Squall with Tech 2 modules will be about the same price.
Okay, what do you think?
Okay, so just to sum up, we were talking about the Squall, which is the entry-level Tech 2 hauler. So the first thing I'm going to react to is the price.
Tech 1 hauler. Tech 1. You said
that's what well, okay, sorry. The Tech 1, the base entry hauler for the Upwell lineup. And the first thing that is kind of sitting with me is price. Not that that's a bad thing, but I think what I'm curious about is the value for money. Sure, they outlined that, yes, it hauls these structures. It has the industrial bay. Is that enough for the price increase? I don't know. That's kind of interesting. I do think it's interesting the adding of PI components, materials, I should say, to build the ship. That's going to have an interesting knock-on effect to the PI market, because now those components are directly involved in building a ship. So that's interesting. The design of the ship, I do like the look of these ships. I'll just say it sucks a little bit that they're all the same looking, aside from the Avalanche, if I understand. But yeah, I'm curious to get my hands on it and see what we can do with it besides just moving skyhooks and whatnot around. So what about you?
Well, my thing is, it's 20 to 25 million as we speak. We all know that some of these ships will probably come down in cost and changes like that. Or they may go up, in fact, because people find that they like them. This is basically a cruiser and a mini baby freighter hauler. It's specialized, but there's still uses for it. So, I mean, I know at one point they point out here that this should be able to do roughly the same damage of like a Caracal. So if you're wanting to fly something big and bad, like one of these, and not have to carry a cruiser with you, I see possibilities.
That brings up what I can see under the ship characteristics is the Upwell hauler bonuses per skill level. So you'll want to get those skills up. Is you have a 20% bonus to missile damage per level and a 10% bonus to ship infrastructure hold capacity with a roll bonus of a 90% reduction to effective distance traveled for jump fatigue, which, that's kind of a normal thing anymore with industrials. If you train this up to 5, you can double its damage output. And from what I see, looking here at the ship information, fitting information, so it has 3 missile launchers. It's not going to be amazing damage. It's certainly not going to fight off a gank. And then it does have the capacity to fit a large shield extender. Okay. And they use medium rig slots, so that's nice. Yeah, it looks like it could be an interesting little ship. You could even run sites with it.
Oh.
Just no drones. That sucks.
I'm just wondering if the capacity is limited to just only certain things. Because they've kind of hinted at that, but haven't come out and said it exactly. So, I don't know.
So it looks like they're going to feature 2 holds. There's going to be the basic cargo hold, which they're showing here as 3,000. So I'm imagining, based on the bonuses and everything, that's it. That's not going to grow based on skills. So there's going to be a standard cargo bay capacity of 3,000 M3. And then the infrastructure hold, however, is massive. The infrastructure hold they have showing in this screenshot here, when there's no indication what level this person's skill is at, but they're showing at 67,500, which is massive.
That's what I was going to say. I think it's 67.5. I can't tell if that's a 6 or a 5, but I think it's a 6.
Yeah, I blew it up here on the screen and I see 67,500. So what I've seen based on other screenshots, which I think this will be huge for operating structures, obviously, was in another image, and we'll probably come across this as we go in the stream, was part of what is allowed in the infrastructure hold is ice. So that means...
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, so I saw that in one of the other images on the website. I'll have to grab it and post it here in the video, but it had like a skyhook and it had some fuel, and so that would mean in a pinch this thing could haul a fair amount of fuel even for structures.
Well, I know that they had talked about this being able to set up a structure, a complete citadel. You could be able to put everything in it for that citadel being set up. So
yeah, 67,500 you could do. I could be wrong, so correct me in the comments, but this should be able to carry like your smaller structures. So an Athenor, probably a Skyhook, a Rotaru, an Astro House, and probably some odds and ends to go along with it and have plenty of room to get that started. You won't be carrying anything like a large structure, because I remember in the past to move like a Fortizar in there. I'm not sure. So maybe a Fortizar, an Asbel, and it'll come to me, a Tartara. Maybe those would fit in there. So it would just mean that this particular ship isn't going to carry your extra larges. So like your Sotillo and your Keepstar.
I was going to say there's more controversy how to say is it Asterhaus or Asterhus than the Tatara versus Tatara? All these controversy names, we're going to have to just put polls up.
If anyone wants to respond, feel free, stir the pot in the comments. I am Asterhaus fan and Tartara. So, if I offend your ears, forgive me. So that's it for me on the Squall. If you want to jump to the what is the next one?
It is the Deluge.
Should know this.
we're going to talk about how this differs to the bigger brother, so to speak, the cloaky version of this. We hop over to the Deluge now.
Yeah, and on to the previous question you asked me about the size of the bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one has a base value of 45,000, so which is actually the same as the Epifall right now. So it can haul the same amount as the Epifall, but this is obviously about 10 times the cost of the Epifall.
Yeah,
so,
because you said it cost about about a T1 cruiser price. You said.
Yeah, a bit more than a T1 cruiser, but fitted about the same. Yeah.
I like it. We're going to be landing now on grid with a few other ships. In this category, we have the Deluge, which is going up against the Crane, against the Prorator, the Prowler, and the Viator. Now, these are the ones that people have gotten used to over the years as the cloaky haulers. Can you talk a bit about what sets this apart? Once you get up to a cloaky hauler, what can that do that a TAC 1 can't?
Yeah, so the blockade runners, first of all, they're immune to cargo scanners. Mm-hmm. So you can maybe try and haul some valuable goods like blueprints, although some people do the tornado roulette on the Jiro undock, so it might not completely save you. They also can use covered ops cloaks, like you mentioned. Yeah. They can also fit covered ops sinos as well for like getting things behind enemy lines. They can also be bridged too, which is also...
So they have a lot more utility than an TAC 1 version because you can move them around a lot safer, and you can obviously bridge them with either Black Ops battleships, and they're actually my favorite way of hauling. I'm a big Viator fan, being able to move things around when I need to.
Yeah, they also warp super fast too. If you have max skills like transport ships level 5, it actually has the same warp speed as an interceptor. So,
when it comes to PvP capabilities, does this hold the same as the Squall? Is it able to?
So it is a little bit, it is a little bit weaker than the Squall. It has a slightly smaller missile damage bonus.
Yep.
Has 15% damage per level instead of 20%.
Yep.
Which is kind of similar to, like the Rapier versus, like the cloaky Minotaur Recon versus like a Caracal.
Yes. But it is speedier.
Yes, so this one is actually really fast. It's actually slightly faster than the Prowler in terms of max speed.
Yeah.
But the trade-off is this actually has the worst agility of all of the blockade runners. So it's slightly less agile than the Crane, which is the least agile one right now.
I think they're pretty. That's all I can really say about it. I think they're pretty.
All right, so we're using the same base model throughout, so they're variations on a theme, which is, I guess I would think there'd be slight difference in like physical sizes, just because like a deep space transport is going to carry more, it's bigger, but we'll see. He is right. It is a good looking ship, and just to bring everyone up to speed, we're talking about the Deluge. So the Deluge. And I realize I just said that in two different ways. The Deluge is the blockade runner of the Upwell lineup. So this is a pretty sneaky, effective way to get some small, or in this case of infrastructure, medium-sized hauling around. Because as long as you're moving things that's related to infrastructure, I mean, these are pretty sizable haulers. Even compared to all the other blockade runners, because this has the special infrastructure hold, if you're moving things in that category, so we're talking fuel, structures, I think I've seen in screenshots, even PI counts in this category. I could be wrong, and it could be subject to change. They're showing here in the fitting or ship information window under the attributes, I mean, its infrastructure hold is 45,000 units. That's pretty substantial in something that can jump, warp, cloaked.
And we don't know what his skills are for this to make that the 4,500. Is that all the way up? I'm so curious. Here's when I'm going to do my CC, please. Can we have CC back for a little while to play with some of the ships that you got coming out? Okay, my little rant is over.
for a blockade runner makes it really broken. I mean, sure, it's specialized, right? We're talking infrastructure stuff. But this makes a huge impact in operating structures, especially over long distances. These are game changers. Of course, we haven't even seen the Avalanche yet, or even the deep space transport, which they'll have their uses, but I'm sure they'll be operated in your more protected spheres of influence. So, like, let's just be hypothetical and, say you have a whole region of nullsec to yourself. What you would see with the Deluge is they would be great for operating your structures on the periphery. They could just quickly hop in and out and either get things anchored or get things fueled or pull PI in or out. And then you would have your deep space transports would be for like your larger operations, and they'd probably be only really seen moving about in your more secure systems in shorter range, just because of the value that's at risk. So yeah, I'm actually more impressed than I thought. So let's give you some of the ship characteristics. So the Deluge has a transport ship bonuses per level is 5% bonus to warp speed and warp acceleration per level. And then it has a 20% reduction in cloaking devices CPU requirement per level. So that means at level 5, you're getting a 25% bonus to your warp speed and your acceleration, which is pretty massive. You're seeing that mainly right now on your Angel Cartel ships, if I recall correctly. And then you definitely see the acceleration bonus on your Concord vessels like the Pacifier and the Enforcer. I'm not sure about the Marshal, correct me if I'm wrong. So not only are they quick, they can reach top speed in a hurry, which is great, especially for your big, long systems. And then it has Upwell hauler bonuses per skill level, 10% bonuses to ship infrastructure hull capacity, and a 15% bonus to missile damage. So that means at level 5, you're going to see a 50% bonus to your ship infrastructure hull capacity and a 65% bonus to missile damage. So, as they had mentioned, sure, you're going to see less damage come out of this thing, but it's a blockade runner. It's not meant to hold itself toe-to-toe in combat. It's meant to be cloak and run. And then the Deluge gets the roll bonuses of can fit covert ops cloaking device and covert sinusoidal field generator. Cloak reactivation delay reduced to 5 seconds. It's immune to all cargo scanners. And a 90% reduction to effective distance traveled for jump fatigue. So pretty your standard stuff for a blockade runner. So I don't know. What do you think of the bonuses?
I think they're okay, but I have to tease you about immune. You said immune. We are having words are hard day. You guys will have to forgive us. We're also learning on the fly as we do some of these podcasts. So if we have a few little technical things here and there, forgive us. We are learning. We are trying to bring you each episode. Hopefully will get better. So, and if not, you'll just have to put up with our shenanigans.
Yeah, so hopefully we made a couple cuts that you guys didn't pick up on because we had some goofs here in the recording. So bear with us. So looking over at the attributes tab for the Deluge, I don't see anything else that really stands out. It does have the ability to fit 3 missile launchers, and like the Squall, for its power slots, it has enough resources to fit up to something like a large shield extender. And in case for anyone who's asking, it's being presented right now as a CPU of 500, a power grid of 537.5, and then it has your rig calibration of 400, and it is fitting medium rigs. So pretty standard stuff. I have to say, as someone who used to run a large network of structures, a ship like this would have made such a huge difference for us.
I know. I'm not going back there, though. So forget it. I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to think this is his CCP character, so this thing is capped out with all of the skills needed for everything. So I'm going to say that 4,000 and 45,000 M3 is going to be top what you can max out.
Yeah, it could totally.
So let us know down below in the comments, who do you think's right on the Deluge, whether it is level 1 or level 5. Who's right? Is it Earth or it is Liz on this one?
All right.
Sorry, I had to.
So let's check out the deep space transport.
Okay, here we go.
Infrastructure hold. It also does have a fleet hangar like other deep space transports, but it's quite a bit smaller than the other deep space transports because we don't want it to like obsolete them.
Yeah, let me see. Let's open up all the stats before I hop in it so it doesn't overwrite my own skills in there too. Show info, and show info. Probably should have done this with the other ones when I was looking at it.
Hey, we're all learning on the fly.
Fitting and attributes a lot easier. It doesn't have my own fits on there as well. One thing this also does is it's able to fit MJDs, right?
Yep, it can fit micro jump drives, and all of these can fit any class modules that any of the other ships could.
Yeah.
So the Torrent, for example, can fit an interdiction nullifier like every other deep space transport.
Yeah. So you could be nullified and MJD. It's kind of hard to hold these things down. These things also have the built-in warp core strength. But what sets this one apart, for example, to the Mastodon and the Bustard, is there's just sheer tank on this thing. If we look at this fit that I currently have on, without simulating it, you said it has the base resist against Triglavian, so it has the thermal and explosive. But this thing becomes pretty tanky here when it's got everything on. And it also has that overheat bonus, right?
I think you actually still have the Deluge up there.
Oh, I'm still in the yeah. I was like, wait a minute. Should be higher. Hop back into this. Thank you. That looks a lot more like it.
yeah. So it has a shield resistance bonus like the Bustard and the Mastodon.
Which then actually increases how much... So the Occutor has a bonus to like active tank, really?
Yeah.
Whereas this thing just becomes incredibly tanky once you overheat. I'm not sure. Do you think this might be maybe a little overtuned with the current stats, or do you think this is... seems...
Okay. You want to replace my Bustards? You want me to keep going, or we want to take it from here?
Let's go a little bit further and see what he has to say.
Okay. He said Bustard, and it was like, but wait, I love my Bustards. Okay, here we go.
He's strong.
Yeah, the Torrent is pretty strong. I know the CSM have like brought this up a little bit, especially if you don't fit like any like launchers in the high slots. You can just like go like triple large shield extender or something. It's definitely something that we're gonna keep an eye on.
One thing that you guys pulled back from recently was you I think you made some of its cargo hold a little bit smaller, so you couldn't fit certain things in there. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So in the when it was showed off, I think a week ago, in the little preview,
in the video that we had,
it had a lot bigger infrastructure hold than it has now. So right now it has an infrastructure hold with back skills of 90,000. A lot of that was part of the feedback from players and from the CSM, mostly because the XL quantum cores for the Keepstar and the Satoyu, they're 95,000 meters cubed.
And I didn't want someone showing up with an interdiction nullified ship, scooping up a
Keepstar core,
Keepstar core, and then just MJDing out, right?
Yeah, that would be a bit too broken. And also it means that you won't be able to like set up a Keepstar in a class 1 wormhole.
No.
Which might be pretty hard to siege.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think?
Can we go back a little bit on the video before he brought up the fitting, when we brought up the first 3...
The fitting windows?
The ship information tabs, before he brought up the fitting window, because now I can't see things.
Yeah, I actually have that. Paste and go.
Okay, so this is the Torrent, so the deep space transport. I have to say, And going back on our conversation about the Deluge, the 45,000 was with skills to max. Because if you caught earlier in the clip, he had mentioned he was showing the ships with his skills. So the 45,000 actually is at level 5.
Yeah, I think he clarified that here in this one, but he hadn't clarified earlier.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just missed it when I was timestamping him.
No, he clarified it here in the torrent just after he said open ship info. He had remarked that, so showing the stats without his skills, which is like briefly highlighting the infrastructure hold on the torrent. The base infrastructure hold number is 60,000 cubic meters. However, when he brought it up a moment later with his skills, it went from 60 to 90. So the other ships, the numbers we were quoting, so the other ships being the Squall and the Deluge, those were at level 5. So talking about the ship in brief, it's just a beefier deep space transport, which has kind of a sleeker look, which I'm not against. It's a good looking model, in my opinion. I think that they should have made this one visibly bigger just because it is carrying more than the others. And I like that the transports look big and bulky, that they have that kind of heft to them. But that aside, the only thing that concerns me about this ship was the insane tank that they're putting on it. The shield resistance on the ship was 93% for thermal, and that's not heated. That's just the modules running normal. So yeah, I am a little concerned on how just outright beefy it is, and that it'll be really difficult to kill. But I don't know, I think it's kind of a more see it in action for a while. I definitely like hearing that they're going to keep an eye on how groups are using it, see if they need to adjust it later. And I am glad to see that they brought the maximum infrastructure hold capacity down so it can't snatch like an XL structure's core, or that it can't even drop an XL structure. I think that was a good move. So it's big enough to be impressive and to be worth the money to do a lot, but it's not game breaking. And like the others, it does have the ability to shoot stuff. His skills, it only did something, I want to say like 307 DPS, so frigate level damage, which that's one hell of a beefy frigate that can warp away, or MJD away. So I applaud their decisions with this one. This could have been a ship that they really handed the target user of this ship a lot of perks. And where it really benefited, like they were talking, nefarious playstyles. So I'm glad they kind of reeled it back in. What do you think?
I think don't fall in love with it in its current state or even after just launch, because I'm betting they're going to come back in with a nerf bat.
I agree.
The EVE players are too smart not to figure out other ways to utilize this.
Yeah.
And so... yeah, I see it being abused a little bit, and then they'll have to reel it back, and that's going to make a whole bunch of people mad, but it's going to be fun while it's there. But even if they nerf bat at some, it's fine, because it's still, it to me, this is kind of over the top.
Its specialty cargo hold capacity, or, the infrastructure hold, definitely gives it a leading edge over other transports if they're hauling that particular thing. Like we saw, he can go up to 90,000 at level 5. And that's not including the fleet hangar, which is part of the deep space transport situation. And that was at 32,000. And that was factoring his skills. So... yeah,
it's got bonuses per skills level, so...
yeah. So even though its fleet hangar probably won't end up being as large as, say, an Impel or a Bustard or a Mastodon or an Occator, if you're carrying those specific item types, so infrastructure, probably PI, fuel, things of that nature, this will definitely be king. So I like how they wedged it into the niche, or into the segment, I should say, of deep space transports, where yes, it's specialized and it can haul a lot, but if you're smaller space trucker, so you're not flying in freighters or jump freighters, you're a DST kind of level trucker, you're going to want to have your standard DST, depending on what you're doing, and then you'll also have a Torrent. And I like that, because that's not making the other ships irrelevant. So I have to say,
my whole thing is, what are they calling infrastructure? What is going to be able to fit in that cargo hold? When they finally announce all of that in the coming weeks, that is going to be a big one, because eventually they might change a few things. Or, I mean, if you leave it just as infrastructure right now, the way they've kind of got it set up, I don't see people utilizing these all the time. So we'll see.
And you bring up a good point. So it's not, I don't think it's meant to be used all the time. I think they wanted to make them kind of like niche-y enough with some flexibility. So sure, you can get around and like do a lot of general things, but you're definitely going to be at a loss in comparison to the generic ship. So really quick, and I'll drop this image in the video. I pulled up the image, it's from Reddit, but I've seen it elsewhere. They have an Avalanche in this screenshot. It's the fitting window for an Avalanche. And he is looking at the infrastructure hold. In the infrastructure hold, he has a mobile depot, he has fuel blocks, he has moon materials. So they're even counting materials to a degree as part of infrastructure. It has a customs office, an orbital skyhook, and it has a keep star and a jump gate, and then it even has some PI resources. So they, based on what I'm seeing here in this screenshot, and this could all change, it looks like what they're allowing in the infrastructure hold is pretty broad. So I think you're not going to see minerals or ore in here, right? That's your mining hold. I'm surprised they allow the hydrocarbons and the scandium, so your moon materials. So I'm surprised they allow those in there. But again, this could all be subject to change. I'm not surprised at the PI stuff, especially if they're making it derived from what the skyhook and the customs offices will be doing. So I kind of see it all in there. So if this remains true, what's in the image, that means things like the Squall, the Deluge, and the Torrent will become far more versatile, because you can, yes, move your fuel blocks, but then you can even start doing your PI runs. So if you want to keep it cheap, use an Epithal, which a lot of people are using now, because that's your Galente hauler that has the PI bonuses already.
I'm going to jump in here, because I've already watched the other side of knowing. I understand why they're allowing the moon goo. I understand why they are allowing some of the materials they're doing. You'll see when we get into, because you have not watched the other video yet. So that's why I said these kind of go hand in hand with the other video. So that I think you'll have more understanding as we get into the next one. I'll be surprised about how you then feel about things.
Okay. But right now, like, I actually, in response to that and what I'm seeing here, I actually like that PI is a part of this, because that just shakes things up, and that just kind of means there's a more broader use for them, even though it fits their niche. That means anyone who wants to kind of have one can enjoy them. Your high sec guy picking up PI, your low sec guy, your wormhole guy.
This hits all the regions. This hits everywhere. Yeah. This is not going to be an exclusive to use just in one place. This is going to be utilized, I think, everywhere.
Okay, so let's scroll back a little bit on the video there where those windows aren't blocked, and then we'll run through the bonuses and we'll move on. Right there, yeah. Okay, so the Torrent doesn't have really surprising bonuses compared to the others, but we'll go ahead and run through them. So it does feature transport pips bonuses per skill level. You get 5% bonus to fleet hangar capacity, so a maximum of 25, and a 4% bonus to all shield resistances, so a maximum of 20% bonus at level 5s, you know, leaning into that tank aspect that they were talking about. And then you have an Upwell hauler bonuses per skill level of 10% bonus to ship infrastructure hull capacity. So that takes it from, you know, 60,000 base level to 90,000 at level 5. And then you get a 25% bonus to missile damage. So you'll get 125 damage bonus at level 5, making it, you know, it can fight back, but like we saw later in the video, it only put out a little bit over 300 DPS. So it could definitely fight off a frigate. Well, probably multiple with that tank, but then it has a roll bonus of +2 bonus to ship warp core strength. So that's typical across the transport lineup. 100% bonus to the benefits of overheating afterburners, microwarp drives, local repair modules, resistance modules, Nosferatu modules, and energy neutralizer modules. So this could be very, very tanky. And I can actually see a lot of groups, even though this has missile launcher bonuses, I can actually see some groups using this as a tanky cap warfare platform in the field. Depending on what gang size you go up against, it can change, but interesting. And so it has a slot arrangement of 4 high, 6 medium, 3 low, and 2 rig slots, and this is in line with the Deluge as well, as I understand. I think they're both 4.63s with 2 medium rig slots. You know, compared to everything else, I think it's a pretty solid ship. Any feedback?
Not really. This is one of those that I'm gonna have to play in because the resistances on it are great. I mean, okay, look at when he overheats. Knocks that up to 225.
Yeah, he's at...
Wow.
Yeah. To be honest, I know this would annoy some people. I could even see it. Oh, I'm probably gonna get crucified for this. I could even see it being used for site cleanup or battles and things like that. Like, I could definitely...
Battle buddies!
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have drones, so it can't do salvaging, but who's to say, like, it doesn't run, you know, salvagers on the top. You know, not that I'm encouraging this, everyone. Don't send me hate in the comments.
Send it my way. Send it my way, because I would say, yes, let's do it. Anything to be non-conformity. Let's try different ways.
But it's definitely an interesting, you know, it's very beefy.
I had to see the size-wise. Against the Mastodon, Occator, Bustard, and the Impel, and good God Almighty.
I don't know. I don't think it's that much. It doesn't look that much bigger to me, but it could just be the perspective, because the perspective in the video is kind of funny. But, you know, if anyone wants to give me a good deal on these ships early on when they come out, you know, I'll gladly work something out with you, and we'll fly them around and we'll do some ship comparisons, because we are also, in addition to this podcast, something that I'm working on the side, and Liz knows about this, is we're actually looking to also start a ship spotlight series of videos, and I think these would be great candidates for some early episodes. So I guess with that, I think the next ship the final ship in the lineup is the Avalanche, which is our funny looking freighter. This thing has a really wild look to it.
Can I say I love the look of this one, and I think it's just because it's so different. Except for you and I have had conversations about this before, about this ship. So you know my...
Looks like a hair curler.
It could be, but it actually just reminded me of 2 ships put in a cross. So we'll see.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Or it's a space gun. Yeah. It could also be a space gun.
It is a nice looking ship, though.
It's definitely different.
So I will make sure I'm in the right time spot.
Yeah.
And it has enough missile firepower to match most battleships. So this actually has the same damage bonus as a Barghest. It doesn't have the range of a Barghest, but it does the same damage of a Barghest, and it has even more damage if you use auto-targeting missiles. And this actually does more damage than a golem in Bastion if you use auto-targeting missiles on it.
We're going to talk a little bit about the auto-targeting missiles in a second. But let's just first of all appreciate it's just the way it looks, because I think it looks real cool. Every time I see it, I think of that old song of Axe Gonna Give It To You. And if it's warping sideways, it's a big plus too, right?
Yeah.
It's a really cool looking ship. People with a 3D mouse are going to enjoy the fact that you can actually go into this tube and go all the way through the middle part, and it looks really cool. They've like thought about people with 3D mice to make it look extra cool here. We're going to hop into this, and we're going to look at the stats and the layout and what this thing can do. Let's start off the other end this time. Let's start off with the cargo hold. How much this can haul. How does it stack up against the other freighters?
So very similar to like the design of the other ones. This one has about half the size of the regular cargo container.
Yeah.
So this has about right now. This is half. I think it's half the size of like a Sharon, the Caldari freighter at level 5. So it won't be able to hold as much regular modules or ships as the other freighters do.
No.
But it does have a super huge infrastructure hold, which is the biggest hold in the game.
Yes.
3 million M3.
It's a sizable hold that it can carry there. Let's look at the actual bonuses that it has. You said it had a very strong bonus just to missile damage itself, but it's specifically one that is here to auto-targeting missile, which is twice the amount.
Yeah, and that actually stacks with the top bonus there as well. So it has 9 effective launches with regular missiles, which is the same as the Barghest, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
But with auto-targeting missiles, it's 18 times effective.
That's it's gonna hit really, really hard. It has another bonus, which is kind of interesting. Can you tell us what a Capital Flex Shield Hardener is?
Yeah, so the Capital Flex Shield Hardener is a module. It's a capital-only module, at least until now. Well, the Avalanche is still kind of a capital, but
Yeah.
It's essentially like it's a shield hardener that you can script to like a specific resistance type if you want.
So you can put a script in, you can be like, hey, I would rather defend against this specific damage type.
Yeah, so if you were in high sec, for example, you jump in and you see 20 catalysts on the other side, you might want to load kinetic in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe try and close the thermal hole, because it has the same kind of bonus resist, the resist profile as the Edencom ship.
Yeah.
So it has a native 30, 30, 57, 57 here. If we turn this on, without anything scripted, this thing is going to be about 460,000 HP. Of course, all of this could change. But if we slap in one of these, let's say just the EM one, that's going to push that EM resist up to 78, which is really cool to be able to, on the fly, go, oh, this might look like it's going to gank me. Let's actually put the resist in first.
All right. What do you think?
So, first things first. Wow, the infrastructure hold is amazing at 3. Maybe, I don't think amazing is the right word. Insane at 3 million cubic meters. I mean, the amount of infrastructure that is moving, and that's just one of those. That's nuts. That's an insane amount of fuel. An insane amount of PI. I would actually say this ship is almost game breaking. And I'm only talking about the hauling stuff, because you're lucky with the other freighters for their conventional hold. You're lucky to get 1 million or to get anywhere into the multi-millions. You're usually stopping around 1 million, if I recall correctly. And then what something large groups who have structures who want to move in mass quantities, that's a pain to move with jump freighters, and is even more of a pain to move with a conventional freighter, but you can get a lot more of the stuff moved, is fuel blocks. And since, like, based on the screenshot, I'll drop it in here again, shows that fuel blocks are kind of counted under the infrastructure umbrella, we should say. That is a lot of fuel blocks. I mean, an insane amount. And this could be a high-sec vehicle. And like I was talking earlier when we were looking at the Torrent, if we had something like this when we were operating structures, and we had just one of these in our fleets, game changing. And sure, I understand these are going to be trekking over much more dangerous distances and, you know, and through more dangerous regions of space. But I feel the 3 million is just too much. It's just too much. Because the only other ship that has like a quote-unquote specialty hold that's in those kind of numbers is the Bowhead. And the Bowhead, you can get 2 million plus. Well, that's removing unpackaged ships. But even still, like, you're only getting maybe 2 battleships and a couple other ships in there. And so that kind of made sense, right? It's a flying garage. But this, for moving PI and structures and fuel, way too much. Then on top of that, it has a 265,000 generic cargo hold. I mean, an insane amount. I would have moved the numbers around a little bit. I would have done like a max general cargo capacity, like 500,000, and knocked this infrastructure hold down to, like, say, 2. I feel these numbers are not right. Go ahead.
Well, and they might change us. I mean, that's the whole, they've said this the whole time through the video. None of this is set in concrete at this moment. It can and maybe will change for some things. And then we also know that if it doesn't work, then they will, you know, they'll nerf it or they'll buff it. And that's part of any game. So we will see how game breaking this really is. My thing is, imagine a bigger corp, like when we were doing stuff out in low sec and stuff, how much I just think of how much this would have eased processes for Moongoos and PI and fuel blocks and structures themselves. I just
Well, yeah, and so what Liz is referring to is for a long time, as a group, we operated in Cador low-sec space, and we had quite a lot of low-sec manufacturing, engineering complexes, and we even operated a handful of refineries. But prior to that, we had a really large network of pause towers that was doing the Moongoo. And we did a lot of freighter work in low sec. They were just escorted by, combat fleets and Webers. This would have revolutionized that. But what I keep thinking of more and more is when we were running the high sec station network in Canid space. That was over 14 systems. Imagine, you were there. We had a fair amount of our space truckers to keep operations going. And could you imagine taking them out of Providences and Charons and Fenrir's and putting them in these? How much that would have changed operations.
But we would have been able to cut the space trucking down with these in play.
Oh, easily.
I mean, it literally could have been 1, maybe 2 people every couple of days instead of having to take the fleet. I mean, I'm literally stunned thinking about it. It is mind-boggling to think about what it is, a flexibility it is to be able to utilize something like this. Wow.
I mean, the other thing too is, I mean, we would have been able to cut operations to, rather than every couple days, we were running on regular, probably about 5 freighters on patrols, running a circuit, once, twice a week. But this could have easily cut that down to 1, maybe 2 freighters once a week, just with the hauling power. But getting past that, because I know there's probably some people eye rolling because I'm sitting on one thing, which is the cargo and infrastructure hold capacity. The other thing that's scary to me, and I feel is game breaking, is also something that kind of should have come a long time ago, is the sheer amount of firepower this thing puts out. And, he quoted, this was, I think it was CCPB, had said that this running at max skills, a full set of launchers with the auto-targeting, you could put out enough DPS to a golem in siege mode. And you're talking in the range of, I want to say, 2.4 to 3k DPS. That's coming from a freighter. I mean, I just have to say, wow. And I mean, that's...
You have a broken brain. Your brain is broken over this. I'm looking at that going, finally, there are ships in the game that are not just, they can actually defend themselves. I wish every game in the ship had some kind of capability to do this. And I'm hoping we will see maybe an evolution on some of those things with some of the other ships in the future. I hate the thought of taking a freighter and literally being defenseless, or having to bring in alts to move it, or having to bring in a whole fleet of people to, if I want to just go, I mean, just this, I might actually fly the big ships if I could do this again. This to me, I'm just so pleased with this. I can't help it.
I mean, looking at the numbers that he had briefly in the fitting window, and I'll drop that, in here. It didn't have a crazy amount of EHP. It had basically, when he was talking about the flux shield hardener, it didn't put it in a resistance range that was like far superior to the other freighters. Sure, the idea that it had the flux hardener so it could move the resistances around was great, but the sheer amount of firepower it could put out to kind of protect itself and even help bring someone down in the process is pretty remarkable. Still not want to run that along the Dodixie Jita corridor unescorted, in my opinion. Like, you would still want that escorted, but they're gonna know that it's gonna hurt to do what they're doing.
My whole thing is, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be unescorted completely, because it should be. It's a big hauling ship. You should have this, but having to have multiple people, this has its own little bit of a defense here. So if that leaves somebody else to be doing their game instead of escorting me, I'm all for that.
I mean, with that amount of DPS and not having to be in something like Bastion, that makes it a very viable field combatant. It just depends on how your fleet is set up. You would definitely want bonuses and Logi on the field. But, I mean, it's going to put out a lot of firepower, and I would say this warrants an upgrade to the other freighters. Obviously, don't make them too powerful. I think this being a specialized freighter, it's definitely going to be more expensive and with the nature of what it's hauling, I want this to kind of be the king of freighters, so to speak. This is definitely special by the way they've developed it. So, but I think this says, hey, the other freighters should be more fittable than the low slots, and they need some form of defenses, and they need mid slots. Again, don't make them as powerful as this, because that kind of takes away what's special about it, and it's kind of niche in the game. But I'm curious if this is a sign of things to come, that we'll see Providences and Charons and Obelisks and Fenrir's, if we'll suddenly start seeing them come with like racial high slot bonuses and with some ability to defend themselves, because I think it's kind of long overdue. I mean, ganking's still going to happen, and these things will still get ganked because they don't have such incredible amounts of HP that they're not going to die. Only 465,000 EHP. It can still be taken out with the conventional gank games that are going on. It just means if this was escorted by some Logi, and if the pilot picked the right target, this is going to bring someone down with them. It's not only Concord that's going to be, in theory, getting the kills if they screw up and, Concord is able to get them on the gate without the Concord shenanigans. It's definitely changing the game a little bit, and I'm hoping that we see something like this happen for the other freighters. That's all I'm going to say.
My thing is, I don't want to be stuck in a ship that I at least don't have a fighting chance. Just even if it's minuscule, to be able to try to get away if I do things right. If my Sharon Osbourne, but if I had her where I could easily defend myself for 5 or 10 seconds even, or take one out with me, so it wasn't such a you take the calculations out of the ganker's hands by even a little bit, and they actually have to work for it and not just say, okay, I'm going to get 10 tornadoes against this and it's going to be done. You're giving a different dynamic. This is something that I am encouraged by, and I might actually fly some of these ships, even though we all know I hate slow ships. But if something had to be done, I could do it then and not feel like, oh, I'm just a sitting target.
Well, and against your glass cannon fit, like tornadoes, for example, if this is putting out 2,400 DPS, in theory, and it has decent application, it would, in theory, bring down a tornado or two with it, which, if it does it fast enough, kind of extends its life that much longer. But there's a whole bunch of scenarios that we're not thinking of at the moment, that it does change the calculation, and I would like to see some of these changes implemented to a degree to other freighters, because I think it's kind of long overdue, right? Like, we've seen so many ships that have been in the game go through the evolutionary process. In recent times, we've seen even battleships kind of get a little bit of an evolution with some of their bonuses, making them more effective at their role and even giving them more solo play capability. I think it's long overdue that the freighters stop being the giant pinata that doesn't really have anything to do but kind of mindlessly fly. So yeah, I'm hopeful this means change and evolution. The Avalanche gets an Upwell freighter bonuses per skill level of 10% bonus to missile damage, 10% bonus to ship infrastructure hull capacity, and a 20% bonus to auto-targeting missile damage, which that is very good in an instance where you're being attacked by, a whole bunch of gankers. You don't even have to lock them, just let the missiles fly. And what's interesting is that the two missile bonuses are compounding. So at level 5 for Upwell freighter bonuses, you'd be putting out 150% bonus damage to auto-targeting missiles. So bear that in mind. Not a lot of people use auto-targeting missiles, so I feel it kind of also brings a largely underused ammo set, makes it relevant. So, hey, industrialists, now's the time to start building those auto-targeting missiles.
I mean, don't we have a hangar full of them just from missions and ANOM running?
Oh yeah, we have tens of thousands that have been like collecting and not doing anything. And we got those for free. So yeah, run your missions and you can also collect your boatloads of free auto-targeting missiles. So yeah, there you go. Any final thoughts, Liz?
We have to wait 2 weeks for more information.
Are you excited about them? Are you interested?
I really am. I am curious. I am excited. I didn't think I was going to be that excited until I actually started looking at some things. So for me to say, okay, this is an expansion that where I thought it was going to be one way and only one way is surprising to me, that it does go across everywhere. This is going to affect everywhere with different changes, and I think it's cool, it's awesome, and I flipping cannot wait.
All right. Well, everyone, that is going to go ahead and conclude this episode of the Gate is Green podcast. It's been really exciting to share all this with you. Liz and I are going to have more episodes coming in the future talking about the expansion itself and how it's going to shake up nullsec, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of reactions there. So stay tuned, keep an eye out for those. We are still getting our footing with this whole podcasting thing, but we will be posting the future content on YouTube, and then as time becomes available, we'll get these on your streaming platforms such as Apple, Spotify, Google, and as those become available, we'll put out on social media where you can find our episodes. So like, share, and subscribe, and we will catch you all very soon.
Later's No 7.